Next, it's Truth or Fake. And Vedika Pahal is with me in the studio. So, Vedika, Donald Trump may have announced a ceasefire in Iran, but it's done little to quieten the growing wave of Democratic lawmakers calling for his removal via the 25th Amendment. Tell us more.
Yes, Jenny, it's true that scores of Democrats have been raising the alarm about Donald Trump's mental stability and have been calling for his removal, saying that he is unfit to serve. And this is after he used genocidal language at Iran on Tuesday, where he posted, "A whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again." There was also his expletive-laden Easter Sunday post where he told Iran to open the strait or that they will be living in hell. And this tentative ceasefire agreement hasn't done much to quash these calls for removal, because over 80 House Democrats have made social media posts saying that Trump's cabinet should invoke the 25th Amendment to the Constitution, declaring him unfit to serve, or Congress should impeach and convict him, or both. Now, multiple Democratic lawmakers have posted online saying that Trump has continued to decline, that he's not fit to leave, calling him unhinged or maniacal for threatening genocide. I also want to show you.
What's happening, people? Welcome to Dr. John Podcast again. Trump posted a social media threat to wipe out an entire civilization, prompting over 70 lawmakers from both parties to publicly demand his removal through impeachment or the never-before-used 25th Amendment. The unprecedented response within hours marks one of the most alarming moments of his presidency. Let me take you back to exactly what triggered this constitutional earthquake. Early Tuesday morning, Trump got on his phone and told the entire world that a whole civilization in Iran would die that night, never to come back if Tehran didn't cut a deal with him before his 8 p.m. deadline. He was talking about the Strait of Hormuz, the shipping lane that carries a massive chunk of the world's oil. Iran had shut it down. Trump gave them a deadline to reopen it. And when the clock started running low, he posted those words that would ignite Washington.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's post, where she says that this 2-week ceasefire, in fact, changes nothing. She said, "We have gone, all these incidents and plenty more have clearly driven the US past the threshold for impeachment or invocation of the 25th Amendment." Similarly, House Representative Yasmin Ansari, who is the only Iranian American Democrat in Congress, she said that she was momentarily relieved by the ceasefire announcement, but it hasn't really changed the fact that Trump made such an extreme threat of genocide and war crimes against Iranians. And she says that she thinks that he is mentally unstable. Now, as I said, Jenny, this is just a glimpse of a few of the reactions, but over 80 Democrats have now posted calling for Trump's removal from office.
And Vedika, what's the Republican reaction been?
Well, Jenny, the Republican lawmakers honestly have been much quieter, but the reactions we have seen have been more divided. For example, the Republican senator for North Dakota, Kevin Cramer, he wrote that the ceasefire, in his opinion, proves that Trump is showing the world that the US is the strongest nation. And he says he's grateful for Trump's.
"A whole civilization will die tonight. I'm sorry. Are you kidding me? That is not a policy statement. That is not peace through strength. That is the President of the United States, the man with the nuclear codes, casually posting about wiping an entire people off the map like he's ordering lunch." And critics, including sitting senators, immediately said the obvious part out loud. That kind of language flirts with genocide. Foreign policy experts said carrying it out would be a war crime under both American law and international law. But here's the thing. Washington did not shrug this time. For months, Democrats had been doing the thing they always do. Strongly worded letters, deeply troubled statements. Yeah, we've all seen the routine. But this post broke something. Within hours, the dam burst. More than 70 lawmakers, House members, senators.
Unwavering dedication to the United States. Other Republicans, however, have posted that they do not agree with Trump's extreme language threatening the destruction of an entire civilization. And they say that this type of rhetoric is against American principles and cannot be excused. Now, I think what's also interesting is that Trump's increase in violent threats have also turned off some of the very voices that have helped get him into office, like MAGA influencers. So we can certainly see some cracks forming in his right flank. For example, Alex Jones took to his show this week to call for Trump's removal, saying that he sounds like an unhinged supervillain from a Marvel comic movie. We've also seen posts from former Trump ally and Congresswoman, former MAGA ally, Marjorie Taylor Greene. She also echoed that same thing, saying it's evil and madness and not a single bomb has dropped on America, calling for the 25th Amendment. Now, even Tucker Carlson, who has previously said that Trump survived his assassination attempt because he believes God chose Trump to lead the country. Now, Tucker Carlson has called Trump the Antichrist. And according to the Wall Street Journal, he told
party leaders went on the record demanding Trump's removal. Some said impeach him. Some said invoke the 25th Amendment. A whole bunch said do both. Whichever works first, just get it done. Nancy Pelosi put out a statement saying Trump's instability has never been more clear or more dangerous. Senator Ed Markey said the House needs to pass articles of impeachment and the Senate needs to convict and remove. Congressman Ro Khanna went on camera and said every single member of Congress should be calling for removal under the 25th Amendment today. Senator Chris Murphy said no president in control of their senses would promise to erase an entire civilization. And it gets crazier. One congressman didn't just talk. Representative John Larson of Connecticut actually filed articles of impeachment. Filed them. Real paperwork.
US officials and communicated to them, urging Trump to resist any attempt to launch attacks that would kill Iranian civilians. So we can certainly see a divide forming there between former Trump allies and the Democrats, of course, and the Republican Party. All of these calls for his removal.
Indeed. So how does the 25th Amendment work? Break it down for us, Vedika.
Well, Jenny, the 25th Amendment was added to the US Constitution in 1967. This is after the assassination of John F. Kennedy. It has 4 sections and essentially outlines the succession for the White House and the rules around presidential disability or removal. And it is this Section 4 that we've seen the US lawmakers refer to. And this one has never been used before. It concerns the removal of a president that is unable to perform their duties, i.e. is incapable of serving but will not transfer power voluntarily. And this would authorize the vice president and the majority of either the cabinet or another body determined by the lawmakers to declare the president unable. And Congress then, either by a 2/3 vote in either the House or the Senate, would have to agree. The chances, though, of Donald Trump being removed from office are low, as we know. Of course, that the Republicans have control of both of those chambers. It is a difficult amendment to invoke, and those closest to him would have to opt to remove him against his will, essentially.
On the record in the House, this is the first widespread removal push of Trump's second term, and it came together in a matter of hours. Oh, and here's the twist nobody saw coming. It is not just Democrats. Lisa Murkowski, a sitting Republican senator, said this threat cannot be excused as a negotiating tactic. She called it an affront to everything America claims to stand for. A Republican congressman from Texas said flat out that he does not support destroying a whole civilization. And then there's Marjorie Taylor Greene. Yeah, that Marjorie Taylor Greene, the woman who used to treat Trump like a religion before she quit Congress and torched the bridge on her way out. She posted the words 25th Amendment in all caps with 3 exclamation points and called Trump's threat evil and madness. Tucker Carlson is against him on this. Candace Owens, too. Even Alex Jones. When Alex Jones thinks you have gone too far, come on. Think about that for a second. Now, before anybody freaks out in either direction, no, Trump has not been removed. There has been no impeachment vote, no conviction, no 25th Amendment declaration, and late Tuesday night, hours before his own deadline, Trump suddenly announced a 2-week ceasefire with Iran. Just like that. Threatened to end a civilization at breakfast, announced a ceasefire by bedtime. Totally normal presidency we're having. But here is why you need to stay with me for this whole video. The ceasefire did not stop the removal calls. Lawmakers are saying it changes nothing. The impeachment articles are still filed. House Democrats are literally holding a briefing on how the 25th Amendment works. And the number of elected officials openly using the word remove is one of the largest blocks we have seen since January 6th. So the real question is not whether Trump posted something insane. He did. The question is this: is Washington finally done pretending this is normal? Let's get into it. Okay, so here's where most people get this story completely wrong. If you only saw a headline that said Democrats called for Trump's removal, you probably rolled your eyes. I get it. Democrats have been mad at Trump since forever. He was already impeached twice in his first term and acquitted twice. So a lot of folks hear the word removal and think, yeah, same movie, seen it next. But that is not what this is. And to understand why, you need the full timeline. Because the whole civilization post was not a one-off. It was the finale of 6 straight weeks of escalation. So let's rewind. About 6 weeks ago, Trump launched a war with Iran alongside Israel. No congressional vote, no declaration of war, nothing. The Constitution says only Congress has the power to declare war. And then Congress just didn't get a say. American strikes, Iranian attacks back, American lives lost, oil prices climbing, families here at home paying more because of a war nobody voted on. Democrats were furious from day one. But, and this is important, most of them still were not saying remove him. They were angry about the war. They were not yet pulling the constitutional fire alarm. Then came Easter Sunday. On Easter, Trump posted a message threatening to blow up Iranian bridges and power plants, civilian infrastructure, the stuff that keeps hospitals running and water flowing for regular people who have nothing to do with the regime. Experts immediately warned that deliberately destroying civilian infrastructure can be a war crime. And the post was not just threatening, it was profane. On Easter Sunday, lawmakers called it unhinged. A few of them started whispering about the 25th Amendment right then and there. That was a warm-up. Then Iran shut the Strait of Hormuz. And if you don't know why that matters, listen close. This is one narrow stretch of water that a huge share of the entire planet's oil sells through. When it closes, gas prices jump, markets panic, everything you buy gets more expensive. So Trump set a deadline. Reopen the strait by 8 p.m. Tuesday, or face the consequences. And then Tuesday morning, 12 hours before his own deadline, he posted the words that lit Washington on fire. A whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. He even added that he didn't want it to happen, but it probably will. Probably will, like he's talking about rain. And in the same post, he mused that a smarter, less radicalized regime in Iran might make a deal. So he is threatening annihilation and regime change in the same breath. Can you believe this? The commander-in-chief of the most powerful military on earth, publicly promising the erasure of a civilization on a social media app before lunch. Now watch what happened next, because this is the part that makes this different from every previous Trump outrage cycle. The reluctance just evaporated. Democrats who have spent months hedging stopped hedging. By Tuesday afternoon, more than 70 lawmakers across both chambers were on record, and they were not vague about it. They named the exact constitutional tools. Tool number 1, impeachment. The House impeaches with a simple majority. The Senate convicts and removes with 2/3. Senator Markey said the House and Senate must return to session. The House must bring impeachment articles, and the Senate needs to remove a president who wants to commit war crimes. Senator Ron Wyden of Oregon kept it even shorter. He said Trump is deranged and must be impeached and removed, and Congressman Larson didn't wait for leadership. He filed the articles himself Tuesday night, citing the civilization threat and the Easter Post, saying they foreshadow war crimes and put American security at risk. Tool number 2, the 25th Amendment, Section 4. This is the emergency brake. Vice President J.D. Vance plus a majority of the cabinet declare the president unable to do the job and power transfers to Vance. It has never been used this way ever. It is the constitutional version of break glass in case of emergency. And now you had dozens of members saying, break the glass. Ro Khanna said Trump is threatening the entire destruction of a civilization and calling Iranians animals, and that if Congress has any life left in it, everyone should be demanding the 25th. Congressman Mark Pocan posted in full caps lock energy 25th Amendment right now, saying Trump is too unhinged and too dangerous to have the nuclear codes. Congresswoman Diana DeGette said 25th Amendment proceedings must begin immediately, and if the cabinet is too cowardly, the House should start impeachment. Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley called it a horrifying threat of genocidal war crimes and said Congress must stop this war and remove him. And Pelosi, the former speaker, the person who ran the January 6th impeachment, tied both tools together. She said if the cabinet won't invoke the 25th Amendment and restore sanity, then Republicans must reconvene Congress to end this war. Hakeem Jeffries, the House Democratic leader, sent a letter telling colleagues that Judiciary Committee Democrats would hold a briefing on the 25th Amendment, a briefing on the removal mechanism. That is not a tweet. That is homework. Now, here is the second thing most people are missing, the Republican side of this. Because the real story is not Democrats versus Trump. The real story is that Trump's own coalition cracked. Senator Lisa Murkowski, Republican of Alaska, said a threat that a whole civilization will die tonight cannot be excused as leverage. She called it an affront to nearly 250 years of American ideals. Congressman Nathaniel Moran of Texas, a Republican, said destroying a whole civilization is not who we are. Senator Ron Johnson said he was hoping and praying the threat was just bluster and that he does not want to see America blowing up civilian infrastructure. Even the Republicans defending Trump were doing it with a straight face that kept slipping. Congressman Don Bacon admitted the words were reckless, then tried to call it negotiating Trump style. Negotiating Trump style. So threatening genocide is a haggling technique now. Come on. And then there is the MAGA Civil War. Marjorie Taylor Greene, who resigned from Congress back in January after her spectacular falling out with Trump, screamed for the 25th Amendment in all caps. She said, "Not a single bomb has dropped on America." She said, "We cannot kill an entire civilization." She said, "This is evil and madness." Tucker Carlson has been hammering Trump over this war for days. Candace Owens too. Alex Jones. These are not liberals, folks. These are the people who built the movement. And Trump's response, he called Tucker Carlson a low IQ person who has no idea what's going on. His own base's biggest voice, low IQ. Meanwhile, one Republican congressman, Marlin Stutzman, attacked Greene for suggesting the 25th, saying the true madness is using it against one of the greatest presidents ever. So Republicans are now fighting each other over whether a president threatening to annihilate a civilization is fine. This is wild. And I haven't even gotten to the White House response yet. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt stood at the podium and defended the post. Her argument basically, it worked. She said it was a very strong threat that brought the Iranian regime to its knees and got them to agree to a ceasefire and to reopening the Strait of Hormuz. So the official White House position is yes, he threatened to end a civilization, and that is a good thing because it was effective. Another White House spokesman went on offense. He said Democrats have wanted Trump gone since before he was even sworn in and called him deranged, weak, and ineffective with historically low approval ratings. And look about that ceasefire. Yes, Tuesday night, roughly 11 hours before his own 8 p.m. deadline, Trump announced a 2-week ceasefire with Iran. Some people will tell you that ends the story. It does not. Congresswoman Melanie Stansbury said it perfectly. Just because a president announces a ceasefire moments before threatening to commit war crimes does not mean he is suddenly fit to serve. Chuck Schumer said Trump backed off and is desperately searching for an exit ramp from his own bluster. The removal calls did not stop. The impeachment articles are still sitting there. And the condemnation came from governors, from senators, from former allies. Even the Pope condemned it. The Pope, and it spread way beyond Capitol Hill. By the way, governors got in on it. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker said, "This is not foreign policy. It is a deranged madman threatening to wipe out an entire country, and the 25th Amendment must be invoked." His lieutenant governor said, "Trump is unfit and endangering us all, and that the 25th Amendment exists for a reason. Use it." Congressman Sean Casten said the threat would be a war crime under domestic and international law. He said it puts American personnel in legal, moral, and mortal jeopardy, and that this is exactly the moment the 25th Amendment was written for. Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy called it part of a dangerous pattern of reckless escalation and erratic decision-making that raises grave questions about Trump's fitness. Congresswoman Delia Ramirez called him a warmonger, escalating the conflict for his own profit and power. That is governors, House members, and senators all singing from the same sheet within hours without a memo. That does not happen by accident. And one more thing that tells you how long this has been building. Senator Chris Murphy did not start on Tuesday. Back on Easter, after the bridges and power plants post, he said that if he were in Trump's cabinet, he would be spending the holiday calling constitutional lawyers about the 25th Amendment. He said Trump seems to be taking America down a path to mass war crimes, a path we cannot accept. Senator Richard Blumenthal put it in one brutal line: desperate or deranged or both. That is how threatening to destroy civilization sounds coming from a president. Even Bernie Sanders weighed in, calling the whole thing immoral and the act of a deranged individual. So the Tuesday explosion was not a spark out of nowhere. It was a fuse that had been burning for weeks, and Trump lit the last inch of it himself. So no, this is not the usual outrage cycle. This is the first genuine, coordinated removal push of Trump's second term. Now let's break down what it actually means and what happens next. Let's break it down clean. What happened in 1 minute. Trump has been running a war with Iran for about 6 weeks without congressional approval. He threatened Iranian bridges and power plants on Easter Sunday. Iran closed the Strait of Hormuz. Trump set an 8 p.m. Tuesday deadline and posted that morning that a whole civilization would die that night if Iran didn't fold. More than 70 lawmakers demanded his removal through impeachment, the 25th Amendment, or both. One congressman filed actual impeachment articles. Some Republicans condemned the rhetoric. Trump announced a 2-week ceasefire before his own deadline hit, and the removal calls kept coming. That is the story. Every word of it real. Now let's be honest about the odds. Is Trump about to be removed? No. And I am not going to lie to you like some channels do because you deserve the truth. Here is the math. Impeachment needs a House majority. Republicans control the House. Conviction needs 2/3 of the Senate. Republicans control the Senate too. Larson's articles, as of right now, have basically zero chance of going anywhere, while the GOP holds the gavel. That is just reality. The 25th Amendment, even harder. Section 4 requires Vice President Vance himself, plus a majority of the cabinet, to declare Trump unfit. And what was Vance doing while Washington burned on Tuesday? He was on a stage in Budapest praising Trump. The cabinet praises Trump publicly, on what feels like a rotating schedule. These are the people who would have to sign the paper. And even if they somehow did, Trump could contest it. Then you would need 2/3 of both chambers of Congress to keep him out. 2/3 of a Congress his own party controls. So anyone telling you removal is imminent is selling you something. It is not imminent. There is no open revolt inside the administration. Almost every Republican in Congress either defended him or went quiet. That is the truth. So why does this matter? Oh, it matters big time. First, the language shifted. And in politics, language is everything. For over a year, Democratic leaders tiptoed around words like reckless and un-American. Now more than 70 elected federal lawmakers, one of the largest blocks since January 6th, are using the actual words remove and removal about a sitting president over his war powers and his nuclear rhetoric. Once that seal is broken, it does not unbreak. Every future Trump escalation now gets measured against the removal standard, not the strongly worded letter standard. Second, the coalition cracks are real. Murkowski, Moran, Ron Johnson's nervous prayers, MTG screaming for the 25th, Tucker, Candace, Alex Jones. When your own movement's loudest megaphones are calling you evil and mad, and your response is to call them low IQ, that is not strength. That is a family falling apart in public. And these are the voices that move Republican primary voters. The White House can dunk on Democratic approval ratings all it wants. The fire it should be worried about is inside its own house. Third, the pattern argument just got its strongest exhibit yet, because critics are not treating this post as a one-time slip. They are stacking it on top of everything else. The fight like hell speech before January 6th, the phone call pressuring Georgia officials to find him votes, the New York hush money conviction that made him the first president with a felony record. The argument Democrats are making now is simple. This is not just Trump being Trump. This is who he is, and his words keep turning into real-world damage. Remember, after January 6th, The House impeached Trump for incitement of insurrection, and Pelosi begged Pence and the cabinet to invoke the 25th. Republican senators said he should resign as soon as possible. The argument then was that Trump's words are dangerous, not just distasteful. Critics say his second term is repeating the exact same pattern: pressure, escalation, reckless rhetoric, chaos. Except now it is not a rally speech. It is threats aimed at a foreign nation during an actual shooting war with American troops in the crossfire. Lawmakers even warned that anyone in the administration who carries out an illegal order could face criminal liability themselves. That is a message aimed straight at the Pentagon. And do not forget the street-level pressure feeding all of this. This removal wave is not happening in a vacuum. It is landing on top of massive nationwide protests. The whole No Kings movement that has been painting Trump as a wannabe monarch and approval numbers his own team would rather not talk about. When elected officials smell that kind of public energy, they get braver. That is just how politics works. The protests give the lawmakers cover. The lawmakers give the protests legitimacy. It is a feedback loop, and right now it is spinning faster. And fourth, your wallet is in this story too. The Strait of Hormuz is not some abstract map thing. When it closed, oil prices spiked. Lawmakers pointed out that this war is driving up prices for American families and has already cost American lives. Foreign governments are watching a president who threatens annihilation before breakfast and signs ceasefires after dinner, and they are recalculating everything. Markets hate unpredictability, and there is nothing more unpredictable than this. What happens next? Watch these dominoes. Number 1, the ceasefire clock. It is 2 weeks. If the talks over the Strait of Hormuz collapse, we are right back at the edge, except now with removal language already loaded and normalized. Every day of that clock is a countdown. Number 2, the House Judiciary briefing on the 25th Amendment. Democrats are literally educating their members on the mechanics of removal. That is infrastructure. That is preparation. You do not hold a class on the fire extinguisher unless you think there is going to be a fire. Number 3, the Hegseth front. While everyone watched Trump, Congresswoman Yasmin Ansari announced articles of impeachment against Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. She accused him of war crimes, including bombing a girls' school in Iran and targeting civilian infrastructure and violating his oath. So the accountability push is not just aimed at Trump anymore. It is climbing through the chain of command. And number 4, watch the Republicans, not the loud ones, the quiet ones. Most GOP members said nothing on Tuesday. Silence is a choice, and it is a choice they will have to keep making every single time Trump posts something like this. If the midterm polling gets ugly, if the war reignites, if MAGA media keeps hammering him, that silence gets very expensive. The Democrats' whole midterm message is writing itself in Trump's own words. So here is where we land. No, Trump was not removed this week, but something changed. The President of the United States threatened to erase a civilization. And for the first time in his second term, a huge chunk of the American government responded by reaching for the constitutional emergency brake in public, on the record, by name. The machinery did not move, but the hands are on the lever now. And that 2-week ceasefire, the clock is already ticking. When it runs out, and with this president, come on, you know something is going to happen. I will be right here breaking it all down.